Ripple has emerged as the winner in the war that has now come to an end. This is not merely a minor legal success, rather it is a complete and unconditional capitulation by the Securities and Exchange Commission, which marks a complete reversal of the long-standing uncertainty in regulatory matters. The ramifications are overwhelming for those who have been keeping a close eye on the situation. This is an example of the sort of moment that has the power to define markets. It is the type of occurrence that distinguishes investors who are prepared to achieve gains that will last for generations from those who are not. In lieu of insignificant speculative increases in price or gossip, what we are actually observing is a formal legal acknowledgement that XRP is a utility rather than a security. The consequences are both instantaneous and significant in magnitude. This is not a mere hypothesis, gossip, or conjecture from an insider. Rather, it is the market's green light, the confirmation that institutional investors have been eagerly anticipating, and the indication that a dramatic increase in prices is on the horizon. Ripple's CEO, Brad Garlinghouse, has successfully unlocked the full capabilities of XRP, and the only thing preventing the present price from reaching a record-breaking $1,000 is the passage of time. The Securities and Exchange Commission's surrender signifies the conclusion of a number of years during which XRP's market value was artificially lowered as a result of ambiguity. This asset's upside potential has been limited by a wall that has been constructed as a result of the fear of regulation and the lack of clarity in the guidance for more than 3 years. Institutions remained on the sidelines, and investors were reluctant to participate. Furthermore, those who were participating at the retail level were advised to anticipate the possible idea of volatility at best. That wall has now been taken down. The legal affirmation that XRP is a utility token is more than just a symbolic gesture. In fact, it is, quite honestly, a license that allows the market to operate without being subject to the restraints that have previously held it back. Once the constraints have been lifted, the way is open for enormous capital flows. Institutional players who have been quietly collecting positions in preparation of this moment are now free to execute tactics that might profoundly restructure the market. All of the hedge funds, exchange-traded fund managers, and cryptocurrency-focused investing companies are adjusting their models so that they accurately reflect the current state of affairs. XRP is no longer viewed as a speculative legal risk. It is now a cleared asset that is poised for exponential growth. This triumph is of utmost importance as the SEC is now under the obligation to embrace Ripple's framework, and there is no longer any uncertainty in the realm of regulations to dampen the enthusiasm of investors. When the floodgates finally open, there will be a sudden and unprecedented rise in liquidity for the market. This is not a progressive increase, but rather a correction, a realignment to the price that XRP would have demanded 3 years ago if it had not been artificially repressed. Instead of being motivated by fear, every single transaction, every single institutional allocation, and every single exchange-traded fund that includes XRP will suddenly be motivated by assurance. And certainty is what leads to an enormous increase in demand. The narrative that XRP is risky is no longer relevant, and the narrative that institutions should wait is also no longer relevant. The only factor that remains is speed. Those who move quickly will be the ones who capture the earliest and most significant gains. This is the moment when history rewards decisiveness, when hesitation could result in the loss of wealth that has the potential to redefine financial futures. In all honesty, the response that the market will have is expected to be rather severe, and it will occur without any delay. It is only a matter of time before the retail and institutional players become aware of the once-in-a-lifetime opportunity that presents itself here once the news gets out to the wider community of crypto experts. Price dynamics that were previously subdued by fear and regulatory uncertainty will now, begin to react to pure market forces. Following the surrender of the SEC, the risk premium that has been artificially depressing the valuation of XRP disappears, and the mechanics of supply and demand truly come to the forefront. As a result, major investors who are waiting for clarification in the legal realm can now aggressively enter positions, which may cause the price to increase in the direction of the $1,000 mark more quickly than anyone had expected. The significance of Brad Garlinghouse's contribution at this particular period in time is absolutely indisputable. His leadership, a strategic positioning, and constant dedication to clarity and honesty have contributed to this triumph. Investors now have the trust that choices are being implemented at the highest levels with precision, foresight, and, yes, legal protection. The final obstacle that stood in the way of the widespread acceptance and market involvement of Garlinghouse has been effectively eliminated by the submission of the SEC. There are institutional players who are waiting for regulatory certainty. These players are now free to deploy cash into XRP without fear. This has triggered a cascading effect that could dramatically boost prices. This is the moment that marks the shift for XRP, when it goes from being a limited and undervalued asset to becoming a fully recognized liquid asset with great demand, which is the perfect setup for, in all honesty, growth that is without precedent. The potential for success is increased even more as a result of the broader market dynamics. The fact that other cryptocurrencies have already responded to changes in regulatory clarity, demonstrating the significant impact that legal certainty has on prices, indicates that XRP's situation is distinct. The Securities and Exchange Commission's SEC complete capitulation demonstrates not only compliance but also confirmation that there is no doubt about the token's essential purpose as a utility. This is a defining moment when it comes to trust in institutions. The previously held belief that there was legal ambiguity surrounding XRP will no longer be an issue, and as a result, managers of exchange-traded funds, hedge funds, and sovereign wealth funds will be under pressure to reallocate capital. The flood of liquidity that results from this will lead to upward pricing pressure that is both swift and persistent. The feedback loop becomes more powerful as the number of participants in the market increases. A rise in price results in increased confidence, which in turn leads to more allocations, which in turn further rises the price. It has the capacity to propel XRP to heights that the urgency is of the utmost importance for retail investors. Every instant that is spent examining previous performance or discussing the dangers of timing is a moment that is wasted when the market correction's first wave begins. The $1,000 mark is not a speculative fantasy. Rather, it is a reasonable conclusion that is based on the elimination of artificial suppression and the activation of demand that has been pent up for a long time. Those who take action now will put themselves ahead of the tidal flow of institutional allocations, ETFs, and market participants who are rushing to capitalize on legal clarity. On the other hand, if one were to wait, it might result in the possibility of entering a market in which the majority of the supply has already been concentrated, leaving only smaller, fragmented sections for those who arrive later and at prices that have been inflated. It is crucial to comprehend the principles that underlie scarcity, certainty, and momentum in order to successfully navigate this unparalleled period in the history of XRP. The submission made by the SEC is not merely a matter of legality, it is also a way of communicating a change in the way the market views XRP. When confidence is established, it leads to adoption, and adoption in turn drives up the price. The removal of a barrier that has previously prevented the full realization of value is known as legal risk, and the accompanying clarity is expected to provoke both retail enthusiasm and institutional hostility. Investors that are aware of this at the present time are able to strategically position themselves to achieve early returns. Those who choose to wait run the risk of being pushed to the sidelines, where they will only have a modest amount of exposure while observing the unfolding of a historic transfer of wealth. In this new era of XRP, the most precious currencies, recurrently timing, intelligence, and decisiveness. There is no question that the opportunity is real, it is palpable, quantifiable, and on the verge of occurring. An unprecedented correction is made possible by the confluence of regulatory victory, leadership clarity, and market readiness. XRP is honestly positioned for a significant upward move, and the $1,000 target is only the beginning of a more extensive revaluation that brings the market in line with reality, following years of artificial constraints. Every institution, every fund, and every retail investor that acknowledges the importance